Welcome everybody, Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. It's Saturday, we're talking DFS. I'm doing a Saturday DFS Daily Fantasy Sports Show every Saturday morning here. I'm going to be recording it, releasing it sometime, probably early morning, late or early afternoon, late morning type thing for you guys. Get you guys prepared, whether you play Draftkings or Fanduel. I want to get you guys armed with the optimal plays to draft at each position. Now, I am offering a service called Fantasy Direct where I deliver this to you on a silver platter via text, along with my favorite picks versus the spread, and of course, waiver wire picks. You can get that at thefantasyfootballcounselor.com, and I've also linked it here below. Now, in that course, obviously, in Fantasy Direct, you're going to get more than you are going to get in this show. In this show, I'm going to give you a couple of value plays at each position and some players that are primed to succeed based on position, based on my research, information, analytics, all my data that I've compiled, and of course, actually my experience. So you're going to get a little bit of that here. But again, if you want all of it, Fantasy Direct, I've linked it below. I got to, premium members got to get a little bit more, guys. It's like one of those things, you get what you pay for, right? But I also believe in giving a lot of free value out. And some people say, well, Joe, you're giving us so much free value. Why should I get any of your courses? A couple of reasons. Number one, you get more value. You get more in it. You get more value. So you get more to choose from, more players, more, that's even in 16 rounds. People are like, Joe, I know who you like, but yeah, you know who I like maybe for the first 6 rounds, but 60 rounds dives deeper. I walk you through a full mock draft, right? I don't just walk through the first 6 rounds, which is what I do on YouTube. So I believe in giving a lot of value, but also I make a living off this. So I got to create a product. Not only that, I want people that are serious. I want to filter out people that are not so serious either. And if you're a beginner, that's okay too. You're serious about succeeding, and that's fine. But that's kind of why people say, because I give so much free value. People are like, why do I need to get your courses? Well, because again, I offer a little bit more in the course. And of course, you're supporting the channel, and this is how I make a living. So I really appreciate it. All right, so let's get into some optimal players at each position. From quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. I'll give you 3 defensive matchups that I like. Again, in my Fantasy Direct, you're going to get 5 defensive matchups that I really like. But before I get into it, smash that thumbs up. It really helps the channel, guys. And of course, leave your fantasy football questions. I'll try to get to some starts and sits for week 1 here in the questions. I try to get back to as many questions as I possibly can as well. But again, it becomes tough. I'm just inundated with questions, and I don't really want to charge a premium for that. I'm just too busy to answer questions, period. So I try to get to them here in the YouTube channel. So be one of the first people to ask a question. I usually get to those right away. All right, and smash that thumbs up. All right, so let's start off with the quarterback position. Now, I had Pat Mahomes in here, obviously, had a decent game. Other guys that I like. Now, it's up to you guys on who you want from these 2 guys, but Russell Wilson and Drew Brees both have pretty decent matchups. Russell Wilson slightly having an easier matchup here versus Atlanta, and you can go Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan now has a tougher matchup. It's actually a mid-range matchup. The reason I put Matt Ryan here as a guy you got to play, $6,700 on DraftKings, because he's consistent. That's what I like about him. I'm almost guaranteed, knock on wood, to get 20 points a game. So if you look at his last 3 games last season, 19 points, 21, and 19, this guy produces. He always comes up with points. Now, one thing that's frustrating with Matt Ryan is that, being an owner of Matt Ryan for years, is that sometimes he doesn't get his crap together till the second half. But as a DFS play, here's a tip, right? When we're talking fantasy football or DFS, daily fantasy sports tips and advice, I like to anchor my roster. No matter what the budget is, I like to anchor my roster with a quarterback that I feel is going to succeed. This is a position I don't really cheap out and get value on, because it's like what you see is what you get, and you see a little more of a consistent trend with the quarterbacks. Now, another guy here as an optimal play for quarterback is Drew Brees versus Tampa Bay secondary. It is a good matchup on paper. He's $6,800 on DraftKings. Now, the thing with Drew Brees is you got to be aware is that he's very volatile game in, game out, okay? So he will have a 7 to 10 point game, and he will have a 40-point game. It just depends on which game it is, and that's the problem for me. Another problem I have with Drew Brees, and I talked about this, guys. By the way, get a pen and paper. Make sure you guys are writing these optimal plays and value plays at each position if you are playing daily fantasy sports this week. Another thing that I don't like about Drew Brees is they bring in Taysom Hill. Now, I'm not a fan of running back by committee, but I'm definitely even less of a fan of quarterback by committee. So that bothers me, especially near the goal line when Drew Brees is there. Not that he's going to rush it in, but you never know. He could pound it in or throw his hands up and get the goal line, goal line carry for Drew Brees, which rarely happens. But the fact of the matter is when Taysom Hill comes in, I really hate that. I can't stand that. And it is a quarterback by committee sometimes. Now, does he really dip into Drew Brees' value? Not really, but enough to bother me, especially in the red zone, okay? So that is a pest. That's why I stay away. But again, based on matchup, it is a good matchup, okay? Now, another good matchup here, bonus here. I don't know if you want to put him in for $6,300. He is a value. Carson Wentz has a good matchup against Washington. For DFS, maybe, but, it is suspect there with Carson Wentz and that offense because there's a lot of, young guys and question marks. So be cautious there, but he is an optimal play. Now, I'm going to give you guys a couple of value plays here that are really good value that you can consider plugging in that have a high ceiling, but they come with risk. Understand, value comes with risk, and I like the value on these two guys right here. The first guy, and you're going to be like, oh, that's weird, but he's going against Detroit's secondary, is Mitch Trubisky. He's arguably got like the fourth easiest matchup versus position. Now, huge risk, but again, he's had some games last year where he did pretty good. And understand, guys, it is a value. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for that value play, and it's somebody that you may want to consider, but don't really trust 100%. Now, this is another value play at $6,100. Not as big of a value as Mitch Trubisky at $5,400, but this guy, $6,100. He's got the second easiest matchup versus position is Cam Newton. Now, understand he is playing Miami, but a lot of this has to fizzle out. So let me make a point here. Let me get this straight with you guys. A lot of this with a little bit of compensation based on this year and some plays based on who the team drafted is predicated on last year's kind of stats, right? We kind of take into consideration that some slight change that happened in the defense, right? But Cam Newton is still playing one of the worst defenses based on last year, which is Miami, right? So when you look at this, you're like, okay, Cam Newton, $6,100, he's got a high ceiling, right? So you want to consider him possibly for DFS this week at $6,100. Good value and a high ceiling. Could boom this week, but again, you are dealing with a risk of uncertainty, right? New offense, new system. Does he have the wide receivers? So you have those question marks, okay? Another value play I'm going to give you guys here is Big Ben Roethlisberger. So again, make sure you're writing these down. It's going to help you. And if you want the full list, Fantasy Direct, once you sign up, get the year-long package, I will mail this out to you, okay, guys? Or text this out to you for even better. All right, let's move on to the running backs. Make sure you're writing this down, guys. Optimal running backs at each position, and then I'm going to give you guys some value plays that could really boom this week, okay? So I'm going to go with some of the easiest matchups here. Jacobs, I love Jacobs, arguably the easiest matchup versus Carolina's rush defense. I love Josh Jacobs this year long, and I like him as a guy that I would start. Now, a little expensive, $6,800 on DraftKings. I like to have at least, we're talking DFS strategy here, right, and tips. I like to have at least a solid running back, and then I like to gamble a little bit after that. But I like to anchor my team with a solid running back. Sorry to tell you, because I want that guaranteed points, right? Other guys that have really good matchups as well. Miles Sanders. Now, problem with him, guys, he was a little banged up. He may be limited. So I'm going to go ahead and probably stay away from Sanders in DFS. But I'm telling you he's optimal, but it's up to you guys to do your due diligence to be aware of the injuries last minute. I do a last minute news and notes here on the show every Sunday morning. So make sure you tune into that. All right. Oh, by the way, virtual tailgate here, Fan to Fan Network. Make sure you guys are following Fan to Fan Network at FTFN on YouTube. Go jump over, follow. We have a virtual tailgate 11 a.m. from all of the top YouTubers all in one spot here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Guys, I'm excited. Football is back. Beyond excited. Other optimal players, I told you David Johnson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire were on this list, but that game is done. Already talked about that, and they did pretty good, both respectively. But another optimal play is Todd Gurley. I love him this week. Love Todd Gurley. Now I'm hearing coaching staff over there saying that he is ready to go. I'm excited. I think a lot of people slept on Todd Gurley this year, and that will be their problem. Let them suffer the consequences. Now, understand, guys, I mean, it isn't the easiest matchup, but he's a guy that I just believe will get a lot of volume, will get that goal line work, and will put up some points this week. Another guy here, optimal play, is Austin Eckler, $7,000, though, a little expensive for me. One of the easiest matchups versus position. You may want to consider him, and Dalvin Cook as well. But Dalvin Cook, I'm not going to be starting. I just don't trust Dalvin Cook. Not against Green Bay. I know it's a relatively easy matchup against their defense, but I still don't trust him and his durability issues. I need to see him for a couple of weeks before I consider starting him for DFS. Couple value plays here. Jonathan Taylor is a value play with a good matchup. Now, and also Joshua Kelly, 2 rookies you want to consider. Joshua Kelly, I think, will get the goal line work with Eckler there, and he's valued at $4,300. And if you want to consider Jonathan Taylor, he is a bit of a risk because I think they're going to ride the hot hand. But if he breaks up for a run, look out Jonathan Taylor moving forward. Marlon Mack is going to take the back seat. Now, out of respect, they're saying, oh, Marlon, well, and again, these guys have the second easiest matchup versus position here against Jacksonville. But if you look at these guys, I mean, man, they're saying Marlon Mack is the guy. I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. They wouldn't have acquired Jonathan Taylor if they really believed in Mack, but out of respect, they're saying, oh, Marlon Mack's our guy. I don't know, guys. I'm a little suspect on this. It's like, you have a girl, right? And she's like, yeah, you're my man, I love you. But then she brings in another dude. She's like, hey, man, this is my new friend. I'm going to hang out with him more than you. I don't know. We're going to hang out with equal time and let the hot hand prevail. He'd be like, yo, you're my girl. What's this guy doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, you got to look at it like logically. It doesn't make sense. So Jonathan Taylor's a value play that could ride the hot hand and be the guy probably week 2 or 3. All right, moving on to wide receiver, optimal plays, and this is a very good one for you guys. Michael Thomas. I mean, Michael Thomas, he's going to be expensive. Don't get me wrong. If you want him on your roster, you're going to pay $9,000 on Draftkings, but arguably the easiest matchup versus position, and he's playing Tampa Bay secondary. $9,000, I don't think I'm going to do it. I'd rather probably go with Devontae Adams against Minnesota, who is a lot cheaper at $7,300 on DraftKings. So you got to take a look at the value a little bit. I mean, $9,000, is he going to perform? Maybe. You never know. DJ Shark, also a good play as well as an optimal play. A couple of value plays here that I really, really like. Deontay Johnson, he was in full practice. I think his leg was bothering him. He should be good to go. Good value there against the Giants. Robbie Anderson, believe it or not, is a steal in DFS and could boom this week, but again, comes with a lot of risk. And I'll give you one more. Allen Lazard could also boom as well this week, okay? Moving on to tight ends, some obvious ones here that are like no-brainers. If you want an ace tight end, is George Kittle and Travis Kelce. Also pack in Mark Andrews there as well as an optimal play. All of them 3 easy matchups. Kittle, obviously, versus Arizona. Easy matchup. Kelce versus Houston, which I already talked about. He already played, so he was an optimal play. Omit that. I had him on my list here. I know the game is done, guys. I watched every second of it. Mark Andrews, also an optimal play. Since we already went through Kelce here, I'm going through my list. I do this list earlier in the week, so sometimes I go through names. So instead of Travis Kelce, I would put in Zach Ertz has got an easy matchup, and Mark Andrews, all great matchups, but again, you're going to pay a little bit more. Value here, I love Haydenhurst. Love the matchup for Haydenhurst. Not only that, I mean, Seattle against tight end last year weren't the greatest. He's actually got the second easiest matchup versus position. But again, after some adjustments, Hurst could have it a little bit tougher here with Seattle, having kind of almost a mid-range matchup versus tight end. But I think he is really good value at $4,300. I mean, why wouldn't I do that? And then also Hawkinson, I like him as well as a value play this week at tight end. I'm going to give you 3 defenses as promised. Again, make sure you guys smash thumbs up and join me every Saturday for DFS. If you are playing either DraftKings, Fanduel, or any other DFS platform, this is really going to help you guys because I'm walking through some guys that are optimal and also guys that are value and somewhat optimal as well for the value players, okay? I like, obviously, the Bills. I mean, that's a no-brainer to me. They've probably got the easiest matchup. I got them started in my year-long against the Jets. I don't know what the Jets are going to produce on offense, but I'm not really excited for the Jets on offense, so I'm going to go with the Bills here. Again, you're going to pay big dollars, $3,700. Second most expensive team next to the Steelers, who is my second team, has an optimal play here at $3,900. And I'm going to give you a team that's a little bit cheaper here, but not much cheaper. And I'm going to go here and maybe say the Ravens at $3,100 versus Cleveland, because I'm not sure what I see is what I get here with the Cleveland Browns. And I think Baltimore could play them hard week 1. It's going to be an interesting matchup. But again, Baltimore as a third defense you want to start. Again, with defense, I don't like to cheap out. I like to get a defense that I know is an optimal matchup. If they cost a lot, so be it. I'll make some sacrifices, some wild card plays, and take some risks at the wide receiver position and anchor my team with a running back, an ace running back, an ace wide receiver, to at least a solid defense, because you definitely need that to anchor your team, okay? Defense is very, very important if you are adding a defense to your DFS lineup, okay? Well, that's it, guys. Smash the thumbs up, and of course, join that Survivor pool there, guys, as I said at the beginning of the show. And I'm beyond excited, guys. Fantasy football is here. Sunday's tomorrow. And make sure you guys subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and join me every Saturday for the DFS show. And, of course, follow FTFN on YouTube and join us for a virtual tailgate every Sunday, 11 a.m. Thanks for being here, guys. I am out.